I enjoyed my molestation. I was essayed by my father since I was 4 until I was 19, and honestly, the memories of it were mostly positive. Instead of being blatantly forceful, he turned my essay into a game. It didn't even feel like abuse at all. He knew my sensitive spots and stuff, so he made it really enjoyable for me. It would usually be in the bathtub or while we were playing with toys, and after I'd get candy or he'd take me shopping. I felt loved. I assumed this was how all daughters bonded with their dads. At first it wasn't consensual, but I guess it did become consensual once I found out this was wrong and became an adult. I willingly kept sleeping with him until 19, cheated on my boyfriends with him a lot. I don't know why, 'cause he wasn't that attractive. I just genuinely liked the feeling, I guess. But now that I'm grown, I have PTSD thinking about it. Not because of trauma or pain, but because I realized how gross it is to sleep with your own dad and actually enjoy it. I vowed to never do this again despite his attempts. Thankfully, it's been years since we've done it. Still, I really wish I was dead. I'm definitely down mentally. So yeah. Thanks, Dad. Coworker has called me 25F, misogynist because of my reading preferences. I don't understand anything, to be honest. So I, 25F, have been working with this girl, 18F, for a couple of months, but I hadn't really talked to her until now. This week most of my other coworkers are away for their holidays, so the two of us were practically alone in the office and started talking, mainly about our hobbies, during our breaks. At a certain point I told her I loved reading high fantasy. She admitted not having read much of it, or of anything, in her life, but still she asked me who my favorite characters were. I told her 3 names: Kaladin Stormblessed, Sand Danglokta, and Daenerys Targaryen. She listened to me and said nothing about it. But today she told me that she has been doing some research about my preferences and that they show that I'm misogynist and sexist. She told me I read a genre who is written by and for men, and that 2 of my favorites characters ever being straight men is a red flag. Oh, and she also lectured me about the importance of reading books written by women. I honestly have never cared about the gender of the writer. I have always read what I felt like in the moment. I don't understand how that, or having 2 male favorites, liking Daenerys, is also not okay because a man wrote her, according to my partner, makes me a misogynist? I don't understand this woman. I was molested by my cousin and biological father. Information before story: my parents are divorced. I used to visit my biological dad at my grandparents' house and his house. He had shared custody with me and my brother, so we spent the night at his house every other weekend. The molestation happened years ago, between the ages of 4 to 7. My cousin would rape me every time I went over to my grandparents and his house, multiple times within the visit. Most of the things I did with him were games and touching each other. I did this willingly because I thought it was normal to touch your cousin in such ways, and now that I look back on it years later, I feel extremely guilty. My cousin essayed me between 4 to 6. My father molested me when I was 7. I had told my mom about the incidents with my cousin and me, so, of course, I couldn't see them for a while. A year later, when I turned 7, I went over to my dad's house for a normal visit that I did during the time I couldn't see my cousin. I don't know what prompted him to molest me a year later. Anyway, me and my brother went to his house and stayed for the weekend. I think Sunday I took a shower before leaving and my dad joined for some unknown reason. I now knew that doing inappropriate stuff like my cousin did to me was not okay, so I didn't understand why he joined me, a 7-year-old child, until he began to touch me in places I didn't want him to. He also made me touch him in places I didn't want to, and eventually I was raped. The incident with my dad only happened once. I don't remember when I told my mom about what my dad did to me, but I do remember not seeing them again for at least 5 years. I still live with the guilt and shame and trauma they left me, but I'm trying therapy to get help. My first meeting is on this Friday and I'm extremely nervous. Hopefully all goes well and I get the help I need. I accidentally stepped on my pet baby rabbit and now I can't stop crying. I had 10 baby rabbits. They are of 2 age groups, some are 1 month old and some are 15 days old. As always, we were helping the babies to latch onto their mothers and drink milk, but during the process one of the rabbits' mother ran away and I stood and ran to catch her. Suddenly I realized I stepped on one of the small babies. I was devastated by what I had done. The little one laid on the ground struggling, bleeding, and his blood was all over the floor. He died after 3 minutes of suffering. It happened last night and it's currently 3 p.m. in my country and I am still not able to control my tears and emotions. I am feeling worthless and I am starting to think that if I touch my other rabbits I'll hurt them too, so since last night I haven't been able to even touch my other rabbit and this pain is not going away. How to get over it? I am lost.
I have ruined my entire life behind a young woman. I'm 38 years old and at age 33, I was in an intimate situation with a 20-year-old woman. Yes, the age gap is horrible. It didn't feel weird at that time, but looking back it was horrible. I realize now I was incredibly immature at an advanced age. I look back in hindsight and wonder how did I even find anything in common with a 20-year-old. While dealing with her she showed flashes of violence and sudden outbursts of craziness at times, kicking in my door, punching me in the face while on the interstate in Atlanta. I had never experienced that in life, so surprisingly I didn't take it as an extremely red flag. This may have been the biggest mistake of them all. In the most idiotic of moments, I helped her get an apartment. While in that apartment with her, she physically attacked me one night. I was saying some pretty mean things and she flew off the handle and began to beat me. Basically I grabbed her off of me and then pinned her down so she could no longer beat me. Another unbelievably idiotic moment. She screamed extremely loud, almost banshee-like. She then called the cops. I got hit with a felony and misdemeanor assault charge. I took a plea deal on the misdemeanor assault charge because of real fear of the felony and now I'm at risk of losing my job in banking, which pays a $170K salary due to the fact that my job requires constant background checks. Mind you, I'm a high school dropout that went back to college at 25 and ended up working my dream job. So I'm at risk of losing my dream. And to top it all off, the same girl continued to beat on me, kicked in my door again, broke my glasses, keyed my car after all of this was said and done, yet constantly apologizes for what she has done to my life. I couldn't leave her alone because she was extremely beautiful and I was ugly, alone and bored. Loneliness, beauty and sex can make weak men fold. I'm very weak. If I lose my job, I don't know if other jobs will hire me. I don't know if I can ever rent another house. Airbnb banned me. I can never own a firearm. And I'm almost 40 years old. I was never violent towards her. She was violent towards me and continued to be after the case was closed. Yet I'm labeled a violent criminal for the rest of my life. I am mild-mannered, am basically afraid of physical confrontation and have an amazing reputation as I am level-headed and responsible in all areas of my life, except for this one. Not violent in any way and have never been. But none of that matters now. I am violent to society. Unbelievable lack of judgment. I take full responsibility for my horrible decision-making in many aspects. I feel like I'm living in a nightmare.
I had an inappropriate relationship with a 16-year-old and I feel disgusted with myself. I'm 19F and I had a friend, 16F. We met online a year ago when she was 15 and I was 18. We became friends pretty quick considering she was the only person I could talk to because I had no one else. I was going through a friendship breakup at the time for being overly obsessive, clingy, and depressive. I would vent a lot but never expected her to solve my problems. Somewhere I started gaining feelings and I would express them. She never liked me back, but she said it doesn't make her feel any different about me. But while we both talked about the age gap, we agreed that my intentions weren't predatory and I thought it would be okay because my therapist said the gap isn't weird, but it's still possible of me to take advantage of her, but I never wanted that, so it's fine. We both didn't want to date, but that didn't stop me from acting like a clingy girlfriend. We've talked multiple times if she was okay with it, and she said it's fine each time. We both expressed lots of platonic affection for each other quite often. Until I wanted more, I started to think of her in sexual ways, and I would tell her about it vaguely, and she said she imagined me too sometimes but not often. We also both would draw stuff of us, and sometimes it would be art of our little characters, nothing sexual though. Last month she met new friends and they were weirded out by how old I was in acting that way. She also slipped up and told her mom how old I was and she kinda gave her a side eye. She told me about these instances after she avoided me for a whole day, and I asked her that if she's concerned about it I can stop with me being clingy and shit. She said it was fine and that it was just something that stuck with her. We talked about it and made up and hung out for a bit, but not even 6 hours later I started overthinking again because of the fact she avoided me earlier and I exploded. I sent a huge essay about how I know I shouldn't pour my problems onto her, but I could not help it. Then she admitted to me that the more she thought about our relationship, the more she realized it was inappropriate. She said she doesn't know why she engaged with me or let it happen despite reciprocating back my affection. She said it gave her an ick after she did it. She said it kinda felt like something she had to do. After all of that and thinking about it, I realized she was right. I should have known better because I'm older, but I am severely immature, have serious attachment issues, depressed, lonely, and desperate. I was so blinded by my need for love and attention that I ended up taking advantage of someone I cared about, and I feel like I cannot live with myself for doing that to her. Like I basically groomed her. I want to throw up. I feel like a horrible person and that there's no possible way to fix and redeem myself or love someone else without worry I'll do it all over again. I can't believe it took me 2 failed friendships to really look at myself and realize how toxic I am. Probably have to make the toughest decision of my life in the next 3 days. I am 20F and I moved abroad for university. I got really sick this year and had to be in the hospital for a while and just in general went through a lot mentally and in life. My grades dropped significantly and I may not be able to graduate on time, within the limits of my study permit. My parents now think that I won't be able to make it on my own, since they think getting a good college degree equals success in life, and told me I have no option but to come home. I respect their decision for not wanting to pay for my college anymore. It's expensive, and if they don't have hope in me, it's like wasting money. But I also think they should respect my decision of what I want for myself. I don't want to move back to my home country. It was dreadful when I was there. My family environment was also very toxic and I wanted to off myself the entire time I was there. I didn't fit in. Ever since I moved here, although the year was hard, I've never felt more at home. Moving back to where I started from feels like I stepped backwards in life. I'd rather work here till I can afford to study here, than go back and start over. But they don't respect that, and have already booked my flight for the next 3 days. I told them that's not even enough time to sort out my banks and bills situation. I'm on a year-long lease here, and would have to pack or sell things. But they are pressuring me into just impulsively come back home. I have never done anything against what my family wants for me. I've followed the life path they have laid out for me my whole life, and now I feel like it's making me miserable. I'm not afraid of struggling and making it on my own here. I would rather be broke and build myself up than live under my rich father's roof as a slave. But I am terrified of making a choice. What if I'm being stupid and immature? How will I even break the news to them? They won't take it well. They're still my family and I care about them. But I can't suffer my own life at that expense. I've never been this uncertain in my whole life and I'm terrified.